All right, Con. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna start letting them in, okay?
Okay, but you're gonna have them muted, right? Until.
Yeah, they're all muted.
All right, good.
All right, here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. We see that everybody is coming into the room.
And
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. In the interest of time, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to come out to we would say come out back in the day. I guess now it's stay in and log in to En La Lucha, the Cuba Libro story. My name is William Ross. I have had the pleasure and privilege of knowing Connor and visiting Cuba Libro for a great number of years now. I've actually had the pleasure of traveling to Cuba for the last 25 years on a regular basis. Initially, my introduction to the island came with the Venceremos Brigade. I was a young brigadista who was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at the age of 15, 16, when I could walk those mountain trails and hurl cement around and cortar caña y sembrar yuca and all that good stuff. And eventually I dare I say I didn't outgrow the brigade, but in 1997, the Venceremos Brigade coincided with the International World Youth Festival. And we were in Cuba for about 6 weeks. And the World Youth Festival was a phenomenal experience in Cuba. And we had a host family. And during that time, I spent boots on the ground, as we would say, with the Cuban people in La Plaza La Revolucion, with a family that would become more than a host. They would become blood family to me, to the extent that the family had a 1-year-old daughter. I would eventually go to pay for her quinceañera. She would become my niece. They eventually had a son. That son was named after me. That was my family. And so I quickly outgrew the need to be in a restricted trip. And so I would go to Cuba to be with the people and engage in activities with the people, not from a touristy perspective. I'm initiated in a number of Afro-Cuban traditions. So many of my years traveling to the island included me basically going from the airport to my godparents' house to do what I needed to do, and then back to the airport. About, I remember being in Cuba when que diga, when former President Obama said, we're going to talk to the Cuban Five. And people were telling me, hey, your president's talking to the Cuban Five. And I'm like, oh, you read that shit wrong. Your internet's really kind of choppy. That's probably not what happened. And I remember sitting there and confirming that with people back in the States. And I said, I need to bring people to Cuba before this becomes another tourist destination. I need to bring people to Cuba to see what is Cuba before it changes any further. I remember when kids were playing in the street. I remember when kids were running around. And I remember seeing the transition from them running to sitting in little clumps and groups looking for Wi-Fi. I saw obesity increase. I saw eye issues increase. I saw the breakdown of the family unit where kids went from communicating with their parents and their friends to wanting to have Instagram to see what the neighbor was doing instead of knocking on the neighbor's door. So I started bringing people to Cuba for what I called spiritual tours to Cuba. And a staple of every one of those tours was Cuba Libre. Now, as fate would have it, I was living less than a mile away in Vedado, uh, walking distance, Cuban walking distance, obviously, to Cuba Libre. And I remember going there the first time, reading about it, and I said, I can't believe I've never seen this place. And then I find out I've passed it 1,000,001 times, but I've never went in. So I go in, and the energy from the minute you walk into this establishment was absolutely amazing. I remember reading somewhere that they referred to it as an oasis. And it was just that. And I remember walking in, I said, this can't be Cuba. You know what I mean? What the hell's going on here? And then they told me, oh, the woman who started it, she's from New York. I'm like, oh shit, una gringuita from New York started this thing here. What's really going on? This isn't Cuba. Then they gave me a menu and they said, these are all the things we don't have today. I said, oh shit, I'm in Cuba. Exactly. I just that's all I needed to know. I'm here. I'm home. And Connor was gracious enough to speak with me. She told me a little bit about the history, and from that moment, that first sip of coffee, that first hello, the first chocolate chip cookie that I had there, and the first time I played with Toby, that was home. And it was important and remains important for me to educate people on the existence of Cuba Libro, not just the establishment, but the mindset that goes into it, the mindset that went into the formation of that establishment, how it came to be, and how it represents the truth of Cuba. I no longer will step foot on the island without making sure I'm back home. And when Connor had some personal affairs to handle here in the States, I said, let's take advantage of your time here. Let's bring some attention to the bookstore. Let's bring some attention to your shop. Let's try to fundraise. Let's do something, because Cuba Libro needs to continue to exist, not solely in Cuba. It needs to be, the focal point needs to be in Cuba, but the mindset, the attitude, the commitment, and the community that is established on that corner of 19th Street needs to be expanded anywhere that it can be. So I asked Connor to take some time out of her schedule, and she graciously did so. So without further ado, and without me making any more of a longer speech, let me go ahead and introduce Connor Gorey to you all. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with her, but Connor, please introduce yourself and tell us, how did you come up with the idea of Cuba Libro, and what happened? And make sure you unmute.
Muting. I'm
All right,
unmuting.
there you
Hi,
go.
everybody. Oh, this is so strange and wonderful. And David has this amazing background on it. I'm a Zoom, novice because I live in Cuba and Zoom is blocked by the US embargo. We've got, most of you probably know Alfredo. Alfredo is our most veteran team member at Cuba Libro. He's trying to join from Havana, but he's got to download a VPN. He's going to try to get into YouTube. And a couple other people from Havana as well are going to try to join us. Thank you so much for tuning in. And also to William, this was just, a great idea of his. He does so much community organizing and so much activism. And it was like, he said, I walked by this place a million times and never knew it existed. If I had a nickel for every person that told me that, I'm like, we should step up our marketing game somehow, but things are very strict in Cuba in terms of private business and what you can do and how you can advertise. You actually can't have anything out on the sidewalk. You can't put a little, excuse me, a little poster board that says, here's Cuba Libro and great vibes and good coffee and things. It all has to be inside the garden. I'm so glad that he walked in one day. I think I remember I think he was with a couple or with 3 people. When they first came in, they were on one of his spiritual tours. And then that just started out this great friendship that we've had going for years, and tons of support by William himself and also folks that he brings to Cuba. The idea for Cuba Libro, and most of you know the story probably. I mean, you're tuning into a webinar on Thursday at cocktail hour, so you're interested. It came out of, my husband fell in love with someone else. That's a very typical Cuban story, right? He fell in love with someone else, called me up because I take a few weeks every year and I go to Maine, the Maine woods. And he called me up and said our marriage was over. So I returned to Havana. I told him, okay, move all your stuff out. He said, where am I going to live? I'm like, I don't know where you're going to live. It's not my problem now. And it was interesting because, you know, divorce is grief. We were together for 10 years. We had made a life together. I thought we were going to the distance. And I passed through, you know, a lot of grief, a lot of healing. And my friends in the States were like, oh, by the way, if there are any children in your area where you're Zooming here, I asked William, you know, I do swear a bunch. Something might slip out. I don't want to hurt any young ears with my potty mouth. So my friends in the States were like, he's an asshole, you know, and, you know, come back to the States. You're going to come back to the States, right? Right now you're going to come back to the States. And my Cuban friends said, oh, just go find someone else, you know. Un clavo saca el otro. There's a saying in Cuba, like, you know, just go get your rebound. And instead of doing any of that, I doubled down, and a friend gave me a bag of books, said she didn't want them. And this was in 2012, and private enterprise was just starting in Cuba. And I was like, hey, books, I'm a writer. I know a lot of writers. There's no English language bookstore. And, you know, let's create something that's comfortable, a safe space, great economical prices, working together as a team and lifting everyone's, not only their spirits, but also their standard of living. Let's make no mistake. Cuba is expensive. Now it's just unbelievable. I don't know if folks have been following it. I know, Pam, you were recently in Cuba, and things are triple, quadruple the price. And there are a lot of different factors why that is. But I founded it with the vision of, okay, we're gonna teach new skills. We're gonna learn new skills, because I had a lot to learn. I've never had a business. And just yesterday I had a friend saying, you know, you got to run it more like a business. You know, you got to be more business minded. And he's right to some extent. But that was never the point. The point was pay dignified salaries to the team, consensus building. We take decisions together, and create this community space. And what else can we do? What need is there? When we identify needs, we're going to see if we can do something about it. And it was tough. I'm not going to lie. And, you know, gray hairs, all this gray, like, it's not the ex-husband. It's a lot of Cuba Libro and just Cuba in general. And it was really hard figuring out the paperwork. They rejected the name of the place twice. You can't call it Cuba Libre, like, you know, and this is like, you wait online for 4 hours to get your paperwork looked at, and you finally sit down, and she's like, you can't name it Cuba Libre. I'm like, it's not Cuba Libre, it's Cuba Libro. It's a play on words. And I had to go back again. And so finally, the third time, they approved the name. P.S. I wish I kind of had not had that name, because I've run into so many problems with anything having to do with the States because Cuba's in the name. So Facebook, we get blocked on any kind of promotions, ads, fundraising, none on Facebook. PayPal, I've had PayPal's lawyers, you know, we can't use PayPal because, you know, it comes up that you're violating, you know, OFAC regulations or whatever. And it's been a real bear to have that in the name. But now, 8 years later, we've got some name recognition, and we've been through some really, really hard times, but also wonderful times. And, you know, COVID, I don't know where I go with this, William, but I mean, that's how it started. Just kind of like, okay, I'm here in Cuba. I've got to do something to keep myself occupied and help me through this, you know, healing process. And how do you do that down in Cuba? It's you bring all your people in, and you get your central, as we say, together and try to do something worthy and good. And over those 8 years, I mean, it's amazing to see what's happening in Cuba right now with private businesses and community initiatives and collaboration between businesses. And now Cuba's just approved. I wanted to found Cuba Libro as a cooperative. That was my idea. Like, okay, well, we'll have it as a cooperative, not as a private business. But at that time, it was impossible. And so now they've just made it possible. You can now have a cooperative. You can now have a small private business with import and export possibilities. So all of this is new and exciting and opens up a lot of possibilities for us. And, you know, I have to say thank you to every single person that has donated to Cuba Libro, because we really couldn't do it alone. The model that I designed for the business is profit sharing. It's, you know, as I said, good salaries for the staff. And so a lot of times, like, I go home without salary, and that's not sustainable. You know, burnout is real. And so, you know, it's been hard keeping it afloat. And except during Obama, like, that was, you know, that was great. That was a real halcyon moment there, where a lot of people were coming to Cuba. A lot of Cubans had a lot of more disposable cash. And even though, you know, our coffees are 60 cents and, you know, this is all, I don't take these decisions alone. We make them all together, and we've just redesigned our menu. And, you know, all the kids are like, we can't do the 60-cent coffee. We can't do the 60. I'm like, guys, we can't pass on. All of these economic problems are real that are happening in the country, but people need a place to come for an affordable coffee, where they're not going to be hustled out after, okay, you done? Here's your check. Let's go. That has never been our model, and we're not going to do that. And so the kids were like, all right, we're keeping the espressos, the real coffee drinkers who are drinking espresso. We're going to keep those really, really cheap. And then we'll see, you know, we'll adjust other prices, especially things that use milk. I mean, milk is just not available now. Yeah, we did a lot over COVID. I'll get to that a little bit later, but I do want to thank everyone that has donated. Really, really generous, especially right now when things are so difficult all over the world, and there's so many great causes, and we're just, you know, a little grain of sand. But that corner of 19 and 24, you know, through donations over the past year, we've been closed since March 2020. We opened for a second. That's when I think, Pamela, I think when you were in Havana was in October, November, December. We were able to open because Cuba had a handle on COVID. Handle on it. But we've been paying rent. So we've been closed since March 2020. So March, April, May, 15 months, and we were able to open for 2. But during all that time, we've paid rent to the owners of the property, because the property is rented. They're neighbors. They live around the corner. They're part of the Cuba Libro family. And maintain minimum salaries we have 7 full-time employees. So since March 2020, and kept their phones on, kept them connected to the internet. So all of that is thanks to donations that we've been able to do that and make sure that people are staying connected. They're able to get some food. You know, in Cuba, you're not going to get put out on the street. You're not going to get kicked out of your house. There's the ration card, so you have some food. But, you know, we have staff members. Dianelli's got a 2-year-old son. And we have members that have to pay rent because for whatever reason, they're renting apartments. And then just daily living. So that has been really, really helpful. And it's interesting that, I opened this place as kind of, yeah, this will be great for Havana's, for Havana's culture, to have this kind of space. No alcohol is served. That was something that, as I'm a recovering alcoholic, and so that was something that you can get liquor anywhere in Havana. And we wanted it to be a space for recovering alcoholics and children and just maybe people who don't want to be around, the garden. I'm assuming almost everyone on this call has been to Cuba Libro, but you get mojitos flowing in that garden and then it's all over. I mean, people are just going to be there, all day long. So, the idea that started Cuba Libro, like, oh yeah, we could do a lot with this kind of space. And the energy that everyone brings to it, and the solidarity. And I can't, it's just beyond my wildest dreams now, 8 years on. But now it's okay, next level. What are we going to do? COVID has given us a chance to stop and regroup, and kind of take a step back and look at what do we want to do, what's needed. And what is everyone able to do? Because people's lives are very, very complicated. I don't have to tell anyone that. We're all living it together. And so when we are able to reopen, we're gonna be doing a lot of different stuff. And we did take the time during all this time that we've been closed. We redesigned the space to be COVID compliant. So, and it actually, people like it better, the way that it's set up. People tell us that they like it better the way that it's set up. And we instituted a reservation system to try to better handle the flow of people, because so few places were open when we were open in the fall, that we would have to close for capacity, to maintain social distancing and things. We redesigned the menu. We added new menu items. One of the impetuses for that, is impetus plural like that? Impetuses, impeti, for that was a virtual contest that we held that was recipes for the Duran. And anyone who's following Cuban news and Cuban COVID news, that Francisco Duran is the national director of epidemiology in Cuba. He's on the television every morning giving the COVID stats. And I've worked with him because I'm a health journalist. If folks didn't know that, I write about Cuban health. So I've worked with him. He's a phenomenal person on top of being an incredible medical professional. So we decided to honor him by creating a drink called the Duran. And so we held a contest. What can we do during COVID? So let's hold a contest and have folks create a drink, and we'll call it the Duran. And so the winner of that contest was Pam Simon, who's joining us here. And it is an amazing, it's this size, it's a pint. And it's lemon juice, sweetened condensed milk, coconut milk. We had to substitute. Pam's original recipe had evaporated milk, but we substituted coconut milk, and chocolate. And it became one of our best sellers when we were able to open. And then we created, so we had the Duran. So we're like, okay, let's create the Fauci. So then we created the Fauci as well. So when we are able to finally reopen, we're going to have the Duran, we're going to have the Fauci. And then during, these past months, the crew has been beta testing new recipes with what's available, because there's so little available. We've had to really tweak, not like the old days, like, Angelo, go run out and get some coffee at the store. Yeah, those days are long gone. And we've really had to adjust how we do our buying. It's very complex, but we're surviving. And hopefully we're gonna not only survive, but thrive I have really, really high hopes for when we're able to reopen again. So we also, we did an event with William, which was No Drama Day. When I opened Cuba Libro, it was just me and one guy, Douglas. And I don't even think, William, did you meet Douglas? Douglas is even before William, but Douglas was 5 years from the start to 2013 to 2018. Douglas was the right-hand man. And we always had a sign up that said Pena with a red slash through it. And Pena is this very, I don't know if they have it in Puerto Rico, William, but yeah. Okay. So in Cuba, Pena is like, oh, could you go talk to that person because they have this tool that I need to borrow or whatever. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Me da pena. It makes me embarrassed. And I get frustrated because there's certain things that Cubans will say, me da pena. And I'm like, why are you embarrassed about that? My example is not really good about borrowing a tool because no Cuban would be embarrassed about asking to borrow a tool. But it's this kind of like social construct that just makes things more difficult sometimes, So we opened up, we had a wooden piece of wood that we painted white. Pena was in big black letters with a red slash through it. And then over the years, that was knocked down by a hurricane, actually. It was our one, we always have to batten down before the hurricanes and stuff. And that was one thing that broke. And then we got another piece of wood and we did the same thing, white background, black letters, red slash through it. And it said drama. No drama, come in here, this is not a place for your drama. And we have had some drama. Okay. We had one, is she on this call? Wait, let me see who's on this call because I don't want okay, we had one, I see one person on this call that knows this story, but it was a woman, a foreigner who lives in Havana, and she came into the cafe, not a regular, and someone that she had a beef with was having a coffee. A young Cuban woman. And they just started, they went at it. They just went screaming and standing up and getting all up in each other's grill. And we were like, nah, not here, out on the sidewalk. You can't do that. That's not the vibe, none of that drama here. So William has an annual event that's called International Day of No Drama, right? And so since we've had this sign for quite a while, he was like, look, let's do a little Instagram thing. Anyone who takes a picture with the no drama sign gets a free coffee. I was like, all right, that sounds good. And so, we're always doing things like that. We had last week, this is Pride Month and Cuba is way behind the curve. We're finally after I've been very involved in LGBTQIA plus things for a long time. And so that's part of our all-inclusive safe space, for people of all walks of life. And so we've been very, very active in those issues in Cuba. And we're still waiting for gay marriage and other rights that come along with that. And so last week, some people from our community were like, look, we're handing out rainbow stickers at our door. Come by at this time and we'll hand out rainbow stickers. And I was like, ooh, can I steal that idea? And they were like, yeah, obviously it's to get the word out. So we had someone, Michael from San Francisco, gave us huge donations of rainbow stickers and flags and ribbons and bow ties and Mardi Gras beads and all kinds of things. And so, I'm here in the States and I was, kids, hey, I call them kids, right? Alfredo's not a kid. He's still a kid to me, right? But they're young people, those young people at Cuba Libro. I was like, hey, you guys want to do this, handing out rainbow ribbons and things. And so we did that last week. Those are just some of the things that we've done, but we do, when study abroad is happening in Cuba, which is Havana is if you know any young people that are in college, I know this year is a lost year, not a lost year, but a different kind of year. But study abroad in Havana is a really great way to get below the surface of Cuba, and their semester abroad programs. And so we have always been really active with the semester abroad programs, and started with IFSA, which has one of the most robust study abroad programs in Havana. We started a free tutoring program, which is a semester-long program. We pair up a Cuban with a US student that's in Havana for the semester. They have to do 24 hours of one-on-one English speaking. And the idea is for the Cuban folks participating to be able to improve their pronunciation and their comprehension and all of that kind of thing. And then for the US students, it's really interesting because we write them recommendation letters afterwards. You know, they've completed this course with us. It's not a course really, but they have done service learning because they are tutoring someone, and they are committed to 24 hours over the semester. And then recommendation letters that we provide for their university. Sometimes their study abroad is for credit. And the feedback we get from those US students is this. I mean, aside from the service learning part of it and the tutoring part of it, it just opened up all these worlds in Havana, like my social world, just, you know, and they don't have to do, we don't make them do the tutoring at Cuba Libro. They can do it wherever they like. But because it's not, the idea is never to like hook the people to spend money. Like, you know, you can't take it with you. The point is to make memories. The point is to build a community. The point is to share initiatives that are win-win for everyone involved. And so, you know, the folks that are participated in that program, that's been hugely successful, cut short by COVID. We were going great gangbusters in March 2020. The study abroad programs were still there. They pulled out fairly quickly, you know, with COVID. It was towards the end of March, I believe. And so we had to truncate that. But you know, we're busy. We do book deliveries. We did for folks that couldn't get out of their house or didn't want to leave their house during COVID. It's different in Cuba. Here in the US, it's a different strategy. Havana is under curfew still. From 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. And that's been in place for quite a long time, but it's not closed. The buses are running, and they're doing a lot of telecommuting. Is that what you call it in English? Telecommuting, where you work from home. But it's not like the lockdown. They do it block by block. When they find cases, they lock down the block. They don't lock down the entire neighborhood or city or whatever. So we were able to do book deliveries for people who couldn't or didn't want to leave their house. And we also launched a Redbubble. Redbubble is this amazing thing, and a lot of Cubans are using it. If you want to support Cuban artists, a lot have on Redbubble. It's you go on there, and they'll have their designs on T-shirts, on face masks, on cups, on, you know, skins for your computer or whatever. And so we launched a store there as well. Try to get a little bit of income coming in. Aside from donations, you know, we have to be proactive. It's all about being proactive. I mean, I'm exhausted. You know, the team is hanging in there. But it's been difficult. It's been difficult. And we've had our share of, you know, nut jobs that come into Cuba Libro. And, you know, we have our share of folks in the neighborhood with, you know, maybe they've got some substance abuse problems, you know, maybe they've got some anger issues, you know, but one of the things about, and I want to talk about the team because it's not me, you know, like William said, like, oh God, another gringa haciendo su cosa, no sé qué. And it's really a struggle because none of them want to be, except for Alfredo. Alfredo is very gregarious. Gabby is also very gregarious. I nicknamed her the Energizer Bunny. They're always willing to do a video or do we get press, we get a lot of press, and I'm like, guys, can someone please give an interview? Like, it can't all be me, because it's not all me. And everyone's like, no, we don't want to do any press. We don't want to go on camera. Yenli, who is our kitchen captain, we had some, personal struggles within Cuba Libro. Wow. And, one of the first ones, not one of the first ones, but one of the ones that I remember really well is we were bringing on new team members. And it was like, okay, all right, you have to be able to do everything. You have to be able to make the perfect Frappuccino. You have to be able to serve folks. You got to be able to, restock the books. You got to be able to do everything. And Yenli was like, I'm not serving people. I don't do well serving people. And so we had huge debates among the team, like, what, no, you have to do everything. Everyone's got to be, what if someone's sick? And, and solving problems by consensus is new to me. I'm a writer. I have an editor. I write. They say, they improve my writing and then it publishes, I'm not used to these, hour-long discussions about how to problem solve, which is a very interesting process. And Yenli was like, no, I'm just not good at serving. It's true. It's not that she's not good at serving, but if you come into Cuba Libre one day and you have Gabby serving you, who's the Energizer Bunny, who, like, Gabby, when Gabby came on the team, we had to be like, girl, you cannot hug strangers like that. She'd be like, oh, because she is like the most cariñosa. She would be hugging like everybody that, and we'd be like, do you know that person? She said, no, but I just like the shirt he was wearing. And we're like, Gabby, also Gabby is a young, beautiful Cuban woman. And sometimes the code between, Cubans and foreigners is not, we're like, a little less hugging, Gabby, it's all right to hug. We're all big huggers, but the guy who just walks in off the street, or the girl who just walks in off the street and you're like hugging them and stuff. So if you have Gabby one day serving you, and then you have Yenli one day serving you, who Yenli, when I wish Yenli was on this call, but Yenli was like, COVID's awesome. I don't have to kiss anyone. I don't have to kiss anyone. Hello. I don't have to touch anyone. I love this COVID thing, the mask thing. Like, I don't have to interact. And it's so funny to see that in a Cuban, because, we have, there's a stereotype, but they're all so friendly and touchy and feely and gregarious, not Yenli. She wants to be in the kitchen, running the kitchen. And so we got to a point where it was like, okay, you can do that. Because one of the things that has been really interesting for me has been, okay, how to make this work for everyone involved. First and foremost, the people that work here, because we spend more time together than we spend with our partners. We're together all the, hi, Naomi, I didn't see you there. And so how can we make it work? And I have my ideas about how it can work. And these kids have shown me like better ideas, and better ways to make things work. And I love that. And I love when we forge solutions together. And then it's like, right before COVID, we had a big disagreement between two of the big personalities, not me, I wasn't involved, on the team. And it got tense. And one person stood up and was like, I can't work with you anymore. This is causing me stress and I don't want to be on your shift. And that's difficult because life is so complicated in Cuba. It's not like you're Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and that's written in stone. No, because then your abuela gets sick, knock on wood, or something happens. The baby needs to go to a checkup, whatever it is. We have to be more flexible with that. And it was like this really tense moment. And both people stood up and they were like, I'm not going to work with you anymore. This is stressing me out. And I was like, guys, let's just sit down. Let's just take it down a notch. We can all talk. we can talk this out. And Yenli was like, I don't know what your guys, so Yenli wasn't one of the big personalities that was in the dispute, but she's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. We're working better than ever together. This team is so solid. It is more solid than I've ever seen it. So, and then we talked it out, and everything was fine. So I should bring that no drama sign like inside, maybe like, get it out of the garden and put it in the kitchen. So, and it's one of the hardest things for me has been, well, time management. I mean, I'm just working way too much. But it's been the different personalities that work on the team and making it work for everybody. We had Charlie is one of our newer hires. I think he started in like 2019. And when he started, he said, and he's terrific, they're all terrific, but he said, I'm going to get my degree. So I'm going to be getting my degree and I can work now full time, but then once I start doing my degree, we're going to have to adjust. And I was like, brilliant. I want you guys, I don't want you guys pouring coffees all life long, like reach, go. We are going to make this work so that you can work and go to school, which in Cuba is not very common. It's becoming more common, thankfully. But when I started Cuba Libro in 2013, everyone was like, why are you having staffing problems? Because finding staff is difficult. Finding people that are vested and that are reliable, because for a lot of different reasons, it can be challenging to get to work on time and things. And people were like, why don't you just go to the university? University students, they're perfect to work in a cafe. Except in Cuba back then, you either went to school or you worked. You didn't do both. And for me, I was like, I've been working since I was 15. I worked all through undergraduate and graduate. Like that's what you do. But not in Cuba. Now that's changing, thankfully. And the university has started University for Workers, where different arrangements, like night school, but it's not at night, it's weekends, whatever. So that's what Charlie was doing. And he got his degree last year. He completed his history degree. So now he's a holder of a bachelor's in history. And we had to adjust. And the job that he started out in is not the job that he's in now. We had to, shift things around. But that is, none of that I do alone. Like the whole team helps. And, we've had our detractors, the people that live above, they've caused us real hell, said some anti-American stuff, like, that American girl, woman, whatever, vieja, tia, whatever they're saying. And what they don't realize is that all the shit that they're talking comes back to us because people got our backs, and so those folks they've broken some laws. They entered the property without permission. They cut back trees, let's say, but like cut back trees, folks who know the garden space at Cuba Libre, we were shut for like a week because we do a yearly retreat. The whole team goes away. We did that in October. I was like, we are going to a house in the countryside and we are just going to relax. And we had wonderful, amazing time that I'm sure is pulling, like memories of that are helping us, survive now. Those things are important, folks. If you can get out and go for a hike or do whatever floats your boat, see your people in a safe way so that when, things are a little darker, you have something really, really lovely to look back on. That helps. And so we were on one of our annual retreats and they came in and they hacked away the entire almendro, which, by the way, I understand from folks who are practitioners is a very sacred tree. And they've actually brought in a bucket crane, like one of those, I don't even know what it's called technically, and hacked away. And what happened was they cut all of our shade was gone, you know. And one of the brilliant things about Cuba Libro is that you have shade, so you can not be sweating, you know, sweating your breasts off all day long. And those folks, they actually tried to buy the property to shut us down, or do whatever they were going to do, you know, open their own place or whatever. But they approached the owner and said, we want to buy the property. And this is after many disputes with them, et cetera, et cetera. I'm having a little coffee. But on the whole, you know, what we've built over this entire time has, I mean, sometimes I can't believe it. And it's a small project, and I wish, you know, William, I know the next part we're going to go to is like, what's next, you know, and the what's next is taking this to a whole different level. I think that, you know, the world is different today than it was 15 months ago. And I think that there were a lot of mental health issues, obviously. We have a lot of psychologists. We've had, you know, our team right now is Alfred's a designer, Jennifer is an illustrator, Gabby's a physical therapist, Dianelis is a jewelry maker and a mom. Yenli is, you know, I want Yenli to run the place, but she won't do it. She's just a magician, and she's really got an awesome way to just be above the fray. Charlie, also just a spectacular, talented person, now has his history degree. Saidi, I gotta give a shout out to Saidi, who is our newest hire. We hired Saidi in, I was right before COVID. It was right before COVID. Was it before COVID? It was in October. I think we hired her in October to do the buy-in, right? Like, okay, we need 4 kilos of cafe, and we need this, and we need that. And she has since gone on to start her own business. So we have, you know, all of these wonderful, wonderful people, and I just want to channel it all and grow this into something really big. And I think that not coming out of COVID's not going anywhere, you know. As a health writer, you know, who's that? Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm new to Zoom. I know nothing about Zoom, but I see like things happening up above. But people are gonna need different services. People are definitely gonna want to be social. We saw that in November and December when we opened up again. That they're going to want to gather, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out in Cuba. And I want Cuba Libro to be right in the heart of it. You know, we were planning right before COVID. We had 2 really big initiatives underway. One was to do coffee service at concerts and musical festivals, right? Because I'm a huge music fan. I know a lot of you, probably everyone that's on this right now, is, you know, had their wonderful experiences with Cuban music. But you go there and it's, okay, you want a cristal, you want a bucanero, you want a Red Bull with vodka. And I can remember going to one of the biggest music festivals in Havana, and I went to the tent where they had the bar, and they were serving screwdrivers and Red Bull and vodka and other things and beer. And so I said, okay, I just want the OJ. You know, I just want a glass of juice, right? Because I don't drink. And they were like, no, that's for the screwdrivers. And I'm like, all right, but I just don't want the vodka. Like, I'll buy the screwdriver, just give me the orange juice. No, we can't do that. And I'm like, you know, WT, what is this, right? So of course, you know, My friend Ivan goes up. He's the mago, he's a magician, and he's like, comes back with a cup of orange juice and a cup of vodka. And I'm like, okay, great, thanks. I can have some OJ now. But I realized that if you're with kids, if you're with people who don't want to drink, if you're with people that are on antibiotics, they can't drink, and you're at one of these events, it can be very difficult to get something non-alcoholic. And it happened to me at another event. And I was like, okay, we're going to do, what does everyone drink? Everyone drinks coffee. And when you're working a musical festival, we know a lot of production people, music production people, a lot of musicians, and you go for a concert, or you go to a festival where they've got a 20-minute set. And of course they're there for hours, So let's do, just coffee. Maybe cortados, coffee with milk, and that's it. And we'll have a portable Cuba Libro that goes to these events. We test drove it at a multi-genre artistic event in Centro Havana. It was huge. It was huge. And we did it. It was Gabby, Alfredo, and I did the event Cuba Libro, and Cuba Libro was open that day. So we made money at the event. We made money with Cuba Libro open. I was like, this is a winner. We got to do this. So we've got the whole setup to be able to do it. It goes on the back of my husband's 1946 Harley Davidson. It's in it pops up. It's ready to go. All we need is an outlet for the machine, for the coffee machine, and we can serve coffees. So that was cut with COVID because no events. And then the other thing that we had cooking, I probably shouldn't. Well, yeah, that's an idea that is probably not going to happen. But if you're familiar with the NPR Tiny Desk series, where they do small format concerts, we decided, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to do that for a limited audience of 30 people. We know all of these musicians. We had set up the musicians that were going to do the first 6 concerts, who was going to do the sound, who was going to do the lights, who was going to film it, and had the first meeting to issue a DVD by a Cuban sello, disc, I don't know what you call that make albums and DVDs and things. So we were really excited about that. COVID, that can't happen, but I don't lack for ideas. and the kids don't lack for energy. So and everyone is just desperate. I mean, I was getting, with the announcement of this event, like people writing me from Havana, are you open? Are you open? Are you open? And then people writing from, around the world, like, I can't wait until you open again. And so we're anxious.
Connor, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. And that is a perfect segue to what I want to ask everybody. One of the things that you touch on and that we've talked about countless times, and we're going to continue to talk about it every time I'm there, is the importance of the impact of that energy, of that recharge, of that exposure to the truth of Cuba, the truth of the Cuban people, and how that manifests in attitude changes, in thought changes when people return back. Even you and I, when we're over there and then we come back to the States, there's that moment of what the hell, and it's culture shock in reversed, feeling at home on the island and coming back here and needing that minute to just kind of get my bearings. So for those of you who are on the meeting here and who have experiences, please, I encourage you to, there's a little hand raise button. Please raise your hand so that I can unmute you and we can hear a little bit about your experiences, because there is nothing more potent about the Cuban culture than the Cuban people. And it doesn't matter how many books anyone reads, how many videos anyone watches, how many documentaries anyone becomes an expert of. The only true experts of Cuban life are those who live it every day. And when they share it with you and they embrace you with that, it is impossible for you to truly grasp what they're sharing and return the same way as when you left. I mean, you leave Cuba Libro with a different understanding of Cuba, a different understanding of the people, and a different understanding of yourself. So please, it looks like we have one participant. So let me go ahead and unmute them, and this is going to be Rose. So let's go here.
Rosanna. I'm so glad you guys are taking time to be with us.
Hello.
Hello.
You guys hear me?
Welcome.
Hi, everybody. For some reason, oh, here I am. Okay. Hello.
Hey.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, well, I just wanted to share a little bit about what both Connor and William talked about, which is I am a study abroad director in Cuba. I'm not in Cuba right now, but I'm usually there. And I work with university students who come from universities all over the United States, who come to study for a semester or for a month or for a couple of weeks in Cuba. And one of the really important components of their experiences now are the English tutoring program that Connor mentioned. Has everyone here been to Cuba Libro? Is there anyone who hasn't been? Is there anyone who hasn't been? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
That's a very good question that I didn't even ask.
It's a oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it. So it's a great environment for young people. Obviously, it's people from all generations go there, young and old. But for young people, I think it's an especially welcoming environment, because how many of us know young people who love to go hang out at bookshops and cafes, right? There's no Starbucks or anything like that in Cuba. So this is a great place for young people to hang out, feel comfortable, know that it's an LGBTQ friendly space, be able to be outside, and be able to hang out with people from their peers. And so that's the program that we are operating jointly with Connor to make sure that young people can get in touch with other students, maybe that they wouldn't meet in their classes at the University of Havana, and also meet young people who are artists, who are workers, who are involved in life in Cuba. There's always people who want to emigrate. It's an island, but there's lots of people who are working on all kinds of life projects there in Cuba as well. So through this tutoring program, it's been a great way for young people, university age people, to meet young Cubans and hear about their hopes and dreams and all of their life projects that they're working on in Cuba. So also, it's a cool program because not only are you helping someone with their English, but also you're expanding your social life. And also we have a deal where if you participate in this program, you get free beverages at Cuba Libro.
I forgot about that part.
Yeah. So anyway, that's one of my experiences. I'm friends with Connor as well, but I mean, beyond just the tutoring program, but I thought some of y'all would like to hear about that experience.
Thanks, Rosanna.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to have Pamela Simon, who's going to share. Just go ahead and unmute.
Well,
There
it's
you go.
me to be here, and I love seeing Connor. It's so nice to see her. She's my neighbor in Vedado. I live on 26 and right around the corner from Cuba Libro, and it's my little home away from home. I met Connor a number of years ago when she first opened Cuba Libro. I had started coming to Cuba, I don't know, maybe 2010. And just when I'm an American, but also I live in Canada, so I just got my Canadian citizenship, and I thought the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Cuba, because I'm a history teacher. I taught history and film, so I wanted to go to Cuba. It was really important to me. So I had started. I don't know how I found Connor's articles, but I started reading her articles online, and I thought, this is so interesting. This woman is amazing. And then she started this app for Havana, which of course, with no Wi-Fi, this app was was a godsend for me. I used it constantly with the little bouncing ball to find my way around Havana. It was fantastic. And then she opened Cuba Libro. So at the time I was staying at 23 and I thought, oh my goodness, it's quite a bit of a walk, but I went down, I found it, we had a nice chat. And then all of a sudden, when I decided to live in Cuba, I live there part of the year now. All of a sudden, wouldn't you know, my apartment is right around the corner from Cuba Libro.
You know what, Pam? You're not the only one.
Really?
Have you met Peter?
No, Peter.
Peter's from Barcelona.
No, I don't know Peter.
Okay, so Peter's from Barcelona. He's lived in Cuba for, I don't know, 8 years.
Yeah.
And he said, I want an apartment within this. I want to be near Cuba Libro.
Yeah.
And it used to be, I'm sure you remember when it was like, that's the boonies.
Yeah.
What are you doing all the way out there? People would say to me, why did you open up a business in the middle? No one's going to come here. And then people find that neighborhood. Then the Fábrica de Arte opened.
That's
and
right.
People find that neighborhood and they're like, wait a minute.
It's the coolest neighborhood in Havana. Let's just say I'm down the street from FAC. You're around the corner.
There are a lot of cool neighborhoods, but
yeah, it's the best. I wouldn't live anywhere else but in that neighborhood. It's so wonderful. And so, coming to Cuba, now my roommate, Ray always says, I go into Cuba Libro now and Connor knows who I am.
Cappuccino Ray.
Said, oh, Ray, you're a celebrity now. That's awesome. And now Alfredo has become one of my closest friends. We talk all the time. When I was there the last time, my mother died when I was there, as you know. And, you were so gracious to me. And Alfredo, we had just met. He comes to my apartment with a Sima Funk hat that he spent 3 days looking for and homemade croquetas. So, he wanted me to make eggplant parmigiana because I'm Italian. So I went out, I got everything. I made eggplant parmigiana for him. And he kept saying all the time, no, you got to make that parmigiana for me. He just loves it. So what would I have done without all of you, during that very difficult time in my life? And plus I was pretty much quarantined in the apartment. Like you were only open for a few days and I was in quarantine. And then thank God the bookstore was open because I went in, I got some books. So I was able to sit on my balcony and read. And you're just my goddess because anytime I need information about anything, I can come to you. When I needed to know where to go for my test to get home and like anything I ever need, I always know I can come to you.
And the kids are also, the whole team, they're such a wealth of knowledge.
They are. I mean,
different
Gabby,
interests.
Too. She's this little sweetheart. I love Gabby. But yeah, like you are just that energy, Connor. You just are everything to that neighborhood and to Havana and keeping those kids' livelihoods alive right now during this dreadful time. And it's just, I don't know what we would do without you in that neighborhood.
Well, I can't, no, it's you guys. I mean, Pamela did a fundraising for her birthday on Facebook for us, which it was like, okay, I got to figure out how to get this money now because it was all raised on Facebook and we have Cuba in our name and they don't want to give it to us.
Were you able to get it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
Good.
But it's interesting what you say about the way grief that happens in life. I mean, and when you reach an age, it seems that you're having more loss, and that's actually not something I've really thought about in relation to Cuba Libro. But a lot of people have that same, they've lost someone in their life. I can remember someone who worked with us and his mom died suddenly. And they buried her and came to Cuba Libro right from the cemetery. Yeah. Because they knew we would carve out, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps, it makes me, but we would carve out a space for them. That they could be with their people. Yeah. They wouldn't be, not private, because how it's set up. It's not private, but we're going to make sure that these folks have some space. Mm-hmm. to be crying. They're going to have tissues. They're going to, and we've had that experience as well. I tend to focus on the connections that we make. Like, you're coming in and you're looking for someone to fix your electric bike, or a Cuban comes in and is looking for, people come to me a lot of times for advice. I want to publish something, how can I do that? Or connecting people that have nothing to do with Cuba Libro, but they'll come in and like being able to provide those kinds of resources for visitors and for folks that live in Havana. And I'm glad that we moved into the neighborhood and we can do that more.
And you gave me the best advice years ago. You said that no matter how long you live in Cuba, you will never, ever completely understand Cuba. And boy, is that ever true, because every time I'm there, oh, this changed and this changed and this is different. And this, like, you just have to go with the flow. You can't think like a North American. You have to go with the flow. That's just the way it is, because things change daily. And I learn something new every day. And
that's the exciting part, right?
Oh, it is. Of course it is. I mean, as a historian, who wants to learn something new, I'm hungry for information. Absolutely. I love it. I love learning about the culture. I love learning all the new slang terms in Cuban, and especially Havana slang, that, just is so interesting, that you wouldn't hear anywhere else. So, that advice you gave me has really stuck with me all these years. And I realized, you've got to be flexible. And yes, I'm not Cuban and I'm not going to understand it. And that's okay.
I used to, sorry to cut you off, but I used to, I used to get, I used to coger lucha, as they say, right? I used to get really upset, about the whole kind of otherness that happened. And I guess that informed kind of the founding of Cuba Libro also, is that let's look for how much we have in common and how much we can construct together instead of the you and the me and I think that's another thing that's kind of intangible, but when, the US and Cuba were normalizing relationships, some of that barrier gets broken down, that otherness. And so people are finding common ground and what we can do together instead of having this otherness. And I still,
hold on, I'm right here.
There's still times where I am like, raging because I don't understand. Oh, who's that?
This is my Toby. This is Luca.
Oh,
it's my Toby.
Oh, adorable.
So when I don't have Toby, I have Luca.
That's the other thing. I mean, Cuba Libro does a lot of dog rescue. We've rescued a couple dogs during COVID. We're always active on the dog and cat rescue tip. And I remember people coming into Cuba Libro that were visiting from, wherever they're visiting from. And some people would just go right for Toby.
Yeah.
And just, they were getting all their Toby time. And I can remember various people saying, I miss my dog so much. They're on vacation. They're in Cuba. They're doing whatever they're doing. Maybe they're at a conference, whatever they're doing. And they've left their dog at home. And I was like, oh, these crazy dog people, like they're getting dog therapy in okay, well, all right, And now, my sister's like, oh God, look, there's a dog. And I'm up on every dog, I'm petting every dog and getting all kinds of dog crazy. And my friends are like, you really have changed since Toby, wandered into Cuba Libro.
I love that picture, the new dog you put up. What a cute.
Yeah, he got he was actually lost. It wasn't that he was lost for like 4 days from his home, but that was Jennifer from Cuba Libro, who is really, really active, fosters animals and things. And everyone is really, it's funny because Alfredo was the real dog activist for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And now he's the one who's like, he knows his limits. He's like, okay, we cannot rescue. You guys, there's a really sick dog out there. He'll always tell us, like, there's a dog lost and sick on the sidewalk. that's how one of the dogs that we
Yeah.
rescued during COVID happened. Alfredo came in, he's like, guys, I'm just letting you know there's a dog out there. And so we got to work to help him find that dog a home.
I was so
But now
hoping
he's
I'd be able to see him on camera. That's too bad his VPN didn't work.
yeah, and
A lot of them were on YouTube. So you do have your staff on YouTube
Oh, they are. They're on
showing
YouTube.
some love. Yeah, showing some love.
Aw.
So and they are sending much love to you all.
Aw.
And they love Lucas and they're looking for one of their own as well.
Alfredo. Gaby, ¿cómo está?
Te extraño todo.
In the interest of time, to respect everybody's time, we got to start wrapping it up. But I did want to just kind of reiterate just again some of the beautiful things that we're reiterating here. The importance of the space, the importance of the connections that are made far beyond reading a book, having a coffee. I mean, the connections that Cuba Libro has allowed people to create have really, really, really manifested themselves into relationships. And that's something that I think can never be overstated, right? You had experiences in Cuba Libro, you met people in Cuba Libro, connections were made in Cuba Libro, and the end result were relationships, to the point that Cuba Libro and the experience had in Cuba Libro become synonymous with Cuba. Those of us who have had those connections and those relationships do not divorce the two on any level. It simply becomes, are you going to Cuba? Yeah, have you been to Cuba Libro? Like, they're not even asking you about that. I mean, I wonder how many of us started writing Cuba Libro on the immigration form at some point by accident, because that's what we were thinking about, right? And we're putting Connor's number on there too. Now, but in all seriousness, the reality is that there is such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful connection and such a beautiful relationship that is communal, that to me, in all of my years, traveling to and from Cuba, I see what I fell in love with, 25 years ago, I see in Cuba Libre. That's what, because I mean, let's be realistic. For all of us who go to Cuba regularly or spend ample time there, we have our moments where we shake our head and we're like, this shit wasn't like this when I started coming here. You know what I mean? It's not supposed to be like this. If I wanted this experience, I'd have stood home. And it's just the way it is. But we go back to Cuba Libre and we remember what made us fall in love in the first place. So I did put in the chat some of the links that Connor shared. And it is absolutely imperative for us to do everything we possibly can, not only to continue to support that space, but to help expand it. And to find the locale. I mean, Fábrica de Arte, like you guys mentioned, not too far, right? Beautiful artistic home, beautifully, very potent location. But there is a difference between seeing an artist who has their stuff on display and seeing the workers of Cuba Libre serve you a smile. Doesn't matter what drink you ordered, that cariño that they're giving you their coffee with, that frappuccino with, that cookie with. I mean, whatever it is, they're waiting for you to have that first sip and they're enjoying it with you, because they're enjoying that energy, that exchange of energy. So really, I implore everyone to do all they can to support Cuba Libre, not just now, but always, especially for those who like to travel and who have never been to Cuba. Don't just say you want to go somewhere in a time where we are seeing places destroyed, in a time where we are seeing history obliterated. Let's make sure that Cuba Libre stays in existence and really does become contagious. So Connor, do you want to, any last final words, any anything at all? I think you got to unmute. I'm still learning the Zoom world myself, so give me a break.
This is fabulous, William. Thank you so much. I see, folks writing in the chat and things. We got a lot up our sleeve. And this guy here is full of so many different ideas. We've got an initiative that we've been trying to get together, where it's bringing in elders. So elder Cubans, because, we're seeing the generation divide, it's happening. And, you know, Cuba is, you know, is a special place in that, you know, elders are revered and, you know, they're taken care of. And so let's see, you know, William came up with an idea like, I'll pay for the coffees that the elders can come in and they can just sit down and you can just, you know, come in and chat with them and get their story. Everyone's got a story. Again, like building those relationships. I am so thrilled to see you folks. It's so hard to be on this planet Earth, you know, June 2021. It's very hard to be away from our loved ones in Cuba, or just away from that feeling that, you know, it may sound cliche now, but a better world is possible. And I want to be able to get together all the people who think that a better world is possible and try to make some progress towards that. And so I, with folks like you, I mean, all of you folks, I can't see it not happening. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Connor. Thank you, everybody, for participating. I am going to be sending you the chat because there are some beautiful messages there. And
Oh, you can do that?
apparently, who said we can?
Cool.
Somebody said we can. Naomi
Right.
said we can, so we're gonna
All
find
right.
out how. And then I'm gonna send that over to you. And again, thank you so much for everybody. You know, the beauty of you know, one of the things to end on the note with COVID and the fact that we're having this conversation now, this is a conversation that would have cost a plane ticket and a lovely experience at immigration and customs and good old Jose Marti Airport to finally have. And now through technology, let's take advantage of the tools that we have to really, really do as much as we possibly can. So again, Connor, love you, appreciate you. Peace and blessings to everybody, and I'll talk to y'all soon.
Okay,
Take care.
stay safe. Thanks, everyone.